What's up, man?
Hey, dude.
So there's no trailer or anything. The way I go about these kind of things is I'll see like a report come across like my news feed, and when I see the first one, I'm initially just kind of like, okay, maybe it's some clickbait bullshit. I'm not really
Which
gonna
it
pay
probably
much
mostly
attention.
is.
Yeah, 90% of the time that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then as time goes on, if I see another one, I'm kind of like, okay, I need to just remember that. That's two reports of it that I've seen. And then if I see a third and a fourth, that's when I'm kind of like,
And you're
okay,
like, okay.
maybe this is probably something real. And of course, what I'm talking about is a sequel to WarCraft. Now
Yeah.
we've both seen this movie.
Yeah.
Uh, do, did you
I
like the
liked it.
first one? Yeah,
I
but
liked
we're
it.
both fans of it.
Yeah. And so I'll say I hold nobody accountable for not liking it, because if you don't like Warcraft, it was a pretty B-rate fantasy movie, you know? It
Sure.
was like Lord of the Rings, if you had directly released that to like TV in the 90s.
So
That would be
I'm glad you brought up
plot-wise
Lord of
amazing.
the Rings because here's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. And anyone who thought I wasn't gonna do this, you're wrong. Uh, it's a fantasy film, obviously,
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure we can all agree that like Lord of the Rings is the set standard for fantasy and cinema. Like it just
definitely. I would,
is.
yeah. It's
So
easily the best fantasy trilogy. I mean, okay, I'll leave that up to anybody that feels like commenting if there are comments.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, let's just think about it like this. Prior to Lord of the Rings, if you'd have told the Academy, like, hey, I'm going to make a high fantasy, high medieval fantasy sword and sorcery film, and it's going to get nominated and win Academy Awards for
yeah,
shit other than makeup and costume, they would have special
right.
effects. They'd have looked at you and been like, you're fucking ridiculous. But
Like, nah, it's not though.
lo and behold, for the first time ever, like a high fantasy sword and sorcery film, all three of them were nominated for Best Picture, and the third one
Mhm.
won. So,
Yeah,
like, that's the standard, right?
I mean,
So,
yeah, no question.
like, that being said, before I give my take, because what was it about this that do you think held it back?
I'd say it's a combination of things. Humor in fantasy has to not be. I know the movie wasn't pop culture, but it was like people were. It's Azeroth, okay? So it's its own place, but you'll find like a British accent over here and like a guy with a slightly Scandinavian accent over there,
Or
and then
just a
like
flat
an
American accent?
American, yeah, just
Yeah,
a straight up American wizard who's like, hey guys, I'm a wizard and I got powers, and you're like, what the fuck is happening? Like,
there's no
I understand.
consistency.
There's no
Like,
consistency of like why would there be four different accents in Stormwind? It's not
yeah,
like they're all these different. I
yeah,
mean, like, not the core cast. I mean, if you're like walking through the city and there are a bunch of accents, that's totally different. But these are like people who are related to each other.
yeah.
They're like literally two of them are related and they sound nothing alike. So it's
Yeah.
like mind-boggling.
The main
The orcs were
character,
ridiculous too. They should have been hunched. They were all like upright, perfect gentlemen, and I was like,
that
orcs are
wasn't my
the
that wasn't my biggest complaint with the orcs, but we'll get to that. But like touching on the whole the accent thing.
yeah,
So like the main character played by Travis Fimmel, who's what's his Ragnar in
Ragnar.
Vikings.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could clearly hear his fucking accent the
yeah,
whole movie. But then the kid that's supposed to be playing his son is like the most like white bread
yeah,
American accent you've ever heard in my. It's like who taught this kid to talk? Like like
yeah.
he clearly, and his mother is like Peruvian or some shit in the movie, and so I can't remember if she had a different accent or not. But you're kind of
I
like,
honestly
how
don't
did
remember.
this? And then
Probably though.
the king has a hardcore like British accent, and you're just like, how did
Yeah.
this kid end up with a full-on American accent? You know what I mean? And the wizard too.
Plot holes.
Yeah, and I could also understand if like the high elves have their own like accent dialect, and then the humans have their own. But yeah, you got like this father with a Scandinavian accent, and then this son with a flat American one, and you're just like, this is really taking me out of the immersive experience here because
Yeah.
I'm just. And then with the orcs, so there are parts of this movie where the orcs look fantastic.
Mhm.
And then there's other parts where they don't look that great. And I think if you want to talk about the ones where they look great, the very, very beginning of the movie, the first opening shot, and it's just a zoomed in shot on Durotan's face, holy shit, that was some really good CGI motion capture. That
It did
very
look really
first
good.
shot. Then
Yeah.
when it starts to pan out and you're seeing them walking around the world and shit, that's when you're kind of like, this just looks like a Blizzard cinematic trailer for the game. And then that looks even worse when it's coupled next to live action humans.
Oh, some of those scenes with the live
Yeah.
action humans. That was
Like
just
up next to all the CGI orcs. And
the
it's like,
lightning scene, you know, the one?
yeah, that one was bad.
It was supposed to look really cool and it just didn't. It was
No.
just like,
Dude, so, like, this is, I think, and this brings me to my central point. We'll see if you agree with this. I feel like this movie was held back because I think story-wise, me and you both know quite a bit of WarCraft lore. So I think story-wise, it has the lore, like, I'm not going to say on par with Lord of the Rings, but it's up there in depth and complexity. So it's got the lore to be a good,
I mean,
really,
complexity, I would say. And I'm not saying it's better or worse, but complexity, I would say there's probably just more to WoW now because there were more expansions, more storylines brought forth. And so like that makes it almost worse because they had so much deep lore and they could have fleshed out a more linear kind of concept for their film and made things fit that.
Yeah.
And this is also a billion-dollar company that shelled out for like half of the good CGI. Why didn't they do all good CGI? It's weird choices here and there.
Yeah, and like, let me ask you this: when you were watching this movie, do you get the feeling that there was someone of authority behind this film that just really did not take it as seriously as they could have?
I honestly think that the entire purpose of the movie was so that World of Warcraft people would resubscribe to the game for the free items that you got for playing the game. You got a really cool sword and shield, and then on the Horde side, you got an axe and a staff, and you got both of them. Like all you had to do was go make like a level 1 Alliance character, and you get the Alliance ones. And so it was like,
and this was tied to the movie?
It was a total, and it was tied to the movie. It was during the release of the movie, and it ran on for like a certain amount of time that if you logged on during this time, you got these items. They were cool. And honestly, I will say 90% of the reason I even knew about that movie was because of that little promotion. And it was also the reason I watched it, was because I got these items. And so I felt like I kind of owed them to like watch the movie. Like, I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird sensation.
I watched it mainly because the initial still photos of like the orcs that were released and you saw glimpses of like how they did the armor and the weapons for the props, and it looked fantastic. And I was just kind of like, oh, they're doing this justice. Because let's be honest, the humans, their armor and weapons was on point for the movie. Like that shit looked good.
They looked really great. They needed bigger shoulder pads, in my opinion. They were way too small.
Yeah,
this is World of Warcraft we're talking about. They needed buttresses on their arms.
That goes back to my thing where it's like that's because they used real humans for the humans. Like, I don't know, a part of me kind of like, I've rewatched this movie a few times and I kind of find myself thinking you should have gone either full CGI or full live action. You know what I mean? Now I get it. Some things you can't, like some of the cities and stuff have to be rendered in CGI in a computer, but I don't know. But then I ask myself, do you think they could have even done the orcs if they hadn't have done CGI? Like, do you really think
orcs aren't that big in the game? They're not that big. They're not monumentally larger than humans. Like they're like a head taller than a human. Yeah. Like a human is here and an orc is here. So and they made them like chest level to orcs. And I was like, that's because you used real people and then you made CGI giants, and it was like it was really weird. Because they're not that much bigger than a human.
So you think it would have been better if they'd have just found like some really tall, muscular, like WWE looking people
to play a couple of the roles and then CGI in some background shit?
Yeah,
because it would have looked better.
You could have
because it would have made more sense.
You could have done prosthetic tusks. We could have done.
We have such good prosthetic makeup technology now that we can make them, if their physique is big enough, We could even do it so that the platforms that they're acting on are elevated, so that it would just appear
Like
that they're
bigger.
X amount larger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it just either, I agree with you kind of in a way, like go all CGI, make the human CGI too, so that they're big and over bulky like they are in the game,
Yeah.
or make it all sort of realistic. And then you can't have titanically giant orcs because we don't have access to titanically giant people, but we can make pretty big people.
Yeah.
We have some pretty big ones. The Mountain, for instance, and the other 3 dudes that played his role,
Yeah.
4 people played the Mountain, and they were humongous.
Yeah.
The Rock,
Yeah.
John Cena. I mean,
what's
those
the
are
Dave
weird choices,
Bautista? But I mean,
Dave
like,
Bautista would be great.
I feel like Dave Bautista could play a good orc.
I think he'd be a really good Duratan.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think he would have been a really good Duratan. Not
Yeah.
that the person who played him was bad, but he would have been.
No, that's another thing. Like the acting in the movie, I thought the acting was pretty good for the most part.
It was good.
Well, really, so the special effects and the way it worked with melding all the CGI and the live action, that didn't meld too well. They CGI rendered so many locations from the game.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it just because for fan service, you know what I mean? Just to show them all in the movie. And that resulted in a lot of jumping around from location to location really fast, just to shove them all in there and be like, look what we rendered for you, fans. Look, it's Lordaeron
look, here's
in real life. Yeah, like, and that once, you know what that is? That's kind of like what we talked about in a previous video where it's not quite the same as action driving plot, but it's like it's visuals driving plot. It's kind of like, okay, well, we want to show this city, this city, this city, and this city. So let's write a story that involves showing all those cities. I'm like, how about you write the story? And if the story justifies going to the city, you go there. And if it doesn't, you tell that city to fuck off. Like, how about that?
Another thing was the story was so piecemeal with what they were giving access to the non-fans. Like, if you don't know who Khadgar is, then it's not going to make a whole lot of sense as to why he knows anything about Medivh and why Medivh is not keen on him at the moment. Like, if you don't understand what the Guardian of Tirisfal is, then the whole Medivh thing in general makes no sense. He's like, is he Gandalf? Well, no, he's more like God. And they're like, what? It's like, yeah, but it's like, imagine all the magic of the world and he's like the focal point. And it's like, well, how does that work? Like, why is that a thing? And Khadgar was supposed to be that, and there's this crazy magic tower, and understanding who the Guardian is helps you understand why the fuck there's this crazy tower, because he's so magically powerful that he's not even a human, really. He's just like, he's just so beyond everything. And if you know what the Fel is, sorry, I'm getting off track.
You're good. No, it's fine. It's all part of the discussion. I'm just like, to add credit to your point, excuse me, I went and saw the movie with Justin because I tried to get Justin to play the game before. I was like, dude, this is back when like we like to play on quite a few like free servers. I remember like what Molten WoW and what did that turn into? Warmane. And
Warmane, I think.
And I was telling him, I'm like, dude, we can play pretty much like all the way up to like Cataclysm. They had it pretty well done, and like their bugs were fixed and whatnot. You got into like Mist of Pandaria and shit, and then you started running into problems. But I was trying to get him to play it. And then I was like, come see the movie with me. And I was hoping the movie might spark his interest. But the whole time he's just leaning over to me like, what the hell is this? What is that? I don't understand. Like, especially like the Draenei, that was his biggest thing. It showed Draenei captive in the cages and like Gul'dan fed off them. And Justin's like, what the hell are those people? I'm like, oh, they're the Draenei. They're this other race. You'll find out later on in the movie. And then it didn't say anything about them at all.
All of it was fan service. That's a problem for me because a movie should be a movie. And if you're going to make a movie about something that has so much deep lore behind it, I don't know how you go about doing that. Like Lord of the Rings did it in this sort of magical way where they made the characters explain sort of the plot as it occurs, but that even happens in the book. It's like the characters are explaining to each other what is happening. Like Gandalf is telling Frodo that the ring has to be destroyed, and Frodo tells Sam, or Sam overhears, and then they get Merry and Pippin, and they explain to them, and then the whole cast of the Fellowship, and that gets explained. So that's a narrative where the cast or the characters are able to then explain what's happening.
You wove exposition into the narrative.
Yes,
and you blended it seamlessly.
It makes sense.
Yeah. And
but WoW doesn't do that at all. WoW is like a narrator.
let's not forget that Lord of the Rings opens up with a huge prologue right at the
Yeah.
beginning
And
to
they did
kind of
it
show
so
you.
cool that everybody loves that prologue.
Yeah,
Everybody hates prologues, but every single person, you mark me, every single person that watches Lord of the Rings sits there like this in that scene. They're like, yeah, this is
yeah.
awesome.
Fight
It's
you
so
actually.
cool.
The only time in the movies you get to see Sauron not in flaming eye form.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
exactly. It's
yeah.
so
So
cool.
it is. It's a good prologue, and it tells you everything you need to know. There's this evil as shit dude. He made a powerful ring, tried to enslave the world. Elves and men fought him. They cut his fingers off. Ring went to this dude. Yada yada. And
Yep,
yeah, it
became a
tells you
flaming
everything.
eye.
And then you start into the movie, and you're like, okay, I get it. I know where we're at. Here we go. Warcraft was just like, hold on to your butts, like, because here we
Yeah.
go, like, just
You know that planet
zoom.
Draenor? No? Well, you're in for a fucking ride because you're not
Yeah,
going to know shit.
yeah, like, I don't know, man. So maybe do you want them to make another one?
Honestly, no. Because it's obviously a shameless cash grab at this point. And in my honest opinion, and I played WoW for a really long time. Blizzard is kind of going to shit. They're not
I don't really play a lot. I mean,
they're making a lot of money, so
yeah,
I don't want to be misunderstood. They're making a lot of money, but also, oof, there's like no moderation anymore. I've seen people get away with some stuff on chat that is absurd, and then I see them like a week later, it's still there. I'm like, what the fuck?
yeah,
Like back in the day, if you had said anything like that, you would have just like disappeared from the game. Nobody would ever hear from you again. You'd be like, what happened to such and such? They'd be like, oh, him, he got banned. He's gone. Like,
yeah.
outie. And you're like, okay, well, that's just one aspect. Shadowlands apparently is going to be better. I don't know, man. They're
They've
implementing another fucking weird system that doesn't need to be there,
they're
limiting
so
the scope of the game.
they're so diversified at this point. Like they
Yeah.
they they went they used to have their three core things. Well, I mean, like, so Warcraft and StarCraft started out similar. They were both RTSs. It was just
Right. Future
one
and
was fantasy, one was
fantasy.
sci-fi. Yeah,
Mhm.
and then Warcraft gave way to World of Warcraft. So they had their MMORPG. Diablo was their action RPG, a little more single
Mhm.
player oriented, but you could still co-op it and shit. And then StarCraft was their RTS. So they had a solid
Right.
3 game market going on. And then they started to diversify with like some Hearthstone bullshit and Heroes of the
Overwatch.
Storm and Overwatch.
Yeah.
And now, like you said, I think a lot of that was successful, especially Overwatch was pretty
Yeah.
successful. And then that brought in so much more income. I feel like now they've reached that like point in the climb where they're just kind of like too big to fail, and they're just like, let's just do whatever the fuck we want. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, and
That's
then
probably what they're doing.
they also got like deals to BattleNet servers are what host Call of Duty online matches now too. So
Mhm.
like they have that going on for them. It's not their
It's because of
game, but
Activision.
yeah,
Activision bought Blizzard, so it's Activision Blizzard now. So it's
yeah,
hard to say it's really. I mean, it technically is Blizzard's fault, but they did make a lot of money, and I would have done it too. So sorry, everybody in the world, but you would
yeah,
too. Everybody
yeah.
would. If someone said, "Hey, I'll give you $9 billion for that essentially thing," you'd be like, "Do you care what the thing is?" No.
So let
It's my
me.
grandmother's ashes. 9 billion. You can have all of them. Sure. She would.
I'll,
This is what she would want.
yeah, I'll tell you something though. So a lot of the reports, not a lot, I'm going to say at least I saw at least two of them say that this next Warcraft movie that's in the works is supposed to be a complete start over. Like they're saying, fuck this, we get it, we fucked up, we're going to start over. Now, I have mixed feelings about this as well because I would almost rather just like see corrections made and then move forward rather than completely start the fuck over. But at the same time, the kind of corrections we're talking about, where it's like either choose CGI or live action and shit like that, that would be such a stark contrast between the first movie and the second movie. If we just like, let's
Yeah.
say we just switched to complete CGI, whereas this had live action actors, and then from then on, no more. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that would it almost would it really be the same series of movies? I don't know.
I
It's
think that if they're gonna do a start over, they shouldn't. Nobody care. I mean, look, I love WoW. I love the lore. I don't love the game really anymore, but I like the lore.
yeah,
Um,
we all
I
have our
really,
addictions.
really, yeah, I really like. Yeah, I mean, totally. But here's the thing: no, nobody actually gives a shit about Duratan or King Lane or the First War. Nope, nobody, because
Yeah,
Why would we? We like the Burning Legion. We like demons. We like watching demon hunters fucking come out of nowhere and start annihilating them. And we like to see like, oh shit, that dude has cool ass magic, and that's a warlock, and he's not just using drain life the whole time. Which, by the way, having played WoW and Warlock for a long time, Gul'dan sucks at Warlock. All he fucking does is drain life. That's like your worst spell. You have so many fucking spells, and all he's doing is drain life. That's the gayest spell. I'm sorry, not gay. Gay's fine. I'm bisexual, so whatever. But you know what I mean? It's like stupid as hell. Like, why the fuck is that all that you do? It's just weird. It was like this. They picked the most boring plot thread, which is just like I'm not kidding. This was like flavor text for a while just to explain how Thrall ended up at Durnhold. Like, it was not even that big a part of his story. And when I read the book, it was like 5 pages of the book. You know, like, oh, Durotan's village is being annihilated. Quick, Draka, we must take him to the river. And then they just fucking yeet him into the river, and then he ends up at the Durnhold. And it's like, okay, that was all I needed to know about Thrall's parents. They were cool people. They were orcs, and they saved their son. Done. Yeah. Then what we're really interested in is Thrall fighting in the fucking gladiatorial arenas of Durnhold, and then fucking escaping because he's a genius and becoming a shaman in the mountains with a blind shaman who teaches him to sense the elements.
He meets Orgrim, and what's the
meets Grom, dude. Meets Grom fucking Hellscream.
Dude, so here's the thing. I gotta say, one of my criteria for this movie, being a WarCraft fan, and they did it, so that was a plus to them, was I was like, if I don't see Grom, I'm calling bullshit. And he's in here, dude. He doesn't say a fucking word, but he's in there.
You see his hair. You know by the hairstyle.
You see him. He's got Gorehowl. He's got the axe. Like, yeah, he's there.
Like the demon blood.
Hellscream. Like, that dude's the original badass. Like,
we're talking Grom Hellscream before Warlords of Draenor fucked him over and made him lame. Yeah. We're talking like green, red-eyed dude who fought Manaroth one-on-one. He was like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you." Manaroth's like an 80-foot demon god, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you with his axe." like that's who he was.
So the thing is, dude, everything you just said that we're actually interested in, you do realize, like, having this out of the way, that would be the next movie.
That's what I mean, though. If they restart and they give us the fucking Draka and Durtan story again, I'm gonna lose my shit. It's the worst part. Dude, imagine this. Yeah. That's like if they made a whole movie about the scene where Smeagol strangles his brother Deagle for the ring. You're like, why did I have to learn all about the fucking fishing village? I don't care about the fishing village. Okay, great. Now we're 3 hours in, and he's picking the ring up out of the mud, and he's gonna kill him. This is what we all are here for. Yeah. And we had to watch everything before that for this. That's how it felt. You know, I liked the movie, but it's just how it felt. I was like, oh, come on.
I agree. So how would you feel about this? Like, let's say they're along the same lines of thinking as us. And for this next movie, like, let's skip ahead to some real shit that people would actually want to see. What if they go straight to WarCraft 3?
Dude, they should. That's a perfect human and Horde and Alliance sort of. Alliance doesn't like exist yet, but
they could do a prologue talking about Thrall, how he got to be where he is, and then just immediately start in with it's WarCraft 3, and then I don't know, maybe they could. Would you want to see 3 and Frozen Throne in one movie, or is Frozen Throne a big enough expansion where it would deserve its own movie? Like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, because we're talking about Arthas. I think Arthas deserves a whole movie just called Arthas. And that's what it should be. It should just be about him because, like, the thing is, ask any WoW player. Nobody hates the Lich King. Nobody feels anything but pity for the Lich King. Like, he was a really powerful, evil dude. But also, he was a deeply misled child who put on a helm of great power that possessed his mind. And he also just happened to find the sword that if you wear that and have the sword, your like whole will gets dominated by
the sword itself dominated him and turned him into a Death Knight.
It was corrupting him and made him into a Death Knight. Yeah. So Ner'zhul's whispers. It's what it allowed. It allowed him to hear Ner'zhul's whispers.
Because he came back to Lordaeron and killed his dad prior to finding the helmet. Like, so
he broke the crown of Menethil. Yeah. He stabbed him through the fucking chest
in the chair. Like, like, dude. Yeah, man. So I don't know. That'd be also a decent avenue that they could take. Is just start us off with the interesting shit in WarCraft 3. You know?
Yeah. Dude, there's so many good stories. We should avoid. I'll just say this now. Please avoid the Deathwing stories. They all suck. Nobody liked those. Maybe some like niche characters are just like they had really good character development, but they didn't. It's like basically just they were there to keep Corona half working in the lore. Like, hey, I'm here and I can steal from dragons, and we're like, okay, that's cool.
That was another thing that you told me, because like, so I never played the very first Warcraft RTS. That was another thing, kind of why a little bit I wanted to see this movie, was because I didn't get that story, and I kind of thought, like, you explained it to me once, when she kills King Lane at the end in the movie, it's made it out to be like he asked her to do it.
Yeah.
And I think you told me once, like, the real version of the story is she just does it to save her own ass. Like,
I mean, it's basically that, yeah. But I don't think she was in love with him. I don't agree with that. I think that was put in there for flavor. But she kills him with a poison dagger because the orcs are watching her, and she'll die too. Like, it was, anybody can sit there and say that she did it just because, like, he asked me to, but no, there was no. Even if he was saying do it, she wasn't listening to him. She's looking at the field of orcs who are going to kill both of them.
Yeah.
Unless she kills him. And this is who she is as a character. She's a person who saves her ass because that's how she was raised.
Yeah.
We're talking about her nature. They made her into this kind of angelic person, but she's like one of the most vicious assassins that's ever lived.
She's
got
like
Karen
Bloodhoof killed. Like, she coated
Garrosh's axe with a poison.
And that he didn't know about, and he killed. Yeah.
Even then, though, you weren't supposed to land telling blows on your opponent, and he was fucking around, and he was really swinging at him, and that's bullshit. Like, everybody, like, dude, it's just like they try to turn characters who are basically demi-villains into sort of heroes because they're like, oh, we don't really like our old story, we're going to turn it something else. Why? Like, she was great as she was. She was a little selfish. Maybe she had feelings for Lane, but she would never let them override herself.
The movie made it out to be like she had feelings for Lothar.
Or Lothar, that's right.
Yeah.
Lane is the general, right?
Lane's the king.
Oh, yeah, I don't think she had feelings for anybody. I don't think that was, I don't remember having feelings for anyone. Definitely not Lothar, and maybe Lane, but Lane was married and definitely did not want to have anything to do with her. She also did not want to be part of the Human Alliance. She was a literal prisoner. Like, they were holding her prisoner. The movie was like, oh, I'll help you. Yeah, but you kidnapped me and are forcing me to. So it's like. Yeah. Anyway.
And then, I don't know, we've already touched on the CGI subject, but like another example that I was going to say was like the golem at the end of the movie that they fight in Medivh's tower. I was like, that looks straight. So yeah, it's like, here's the thing, man. We all love the World of Warcraft cinematic movies and trailers that they release because they're not meant to be realistic. They're meant to still have this like cartoony art style, but they look fantastic in and of that.
Yeah.
So if they'd have just been like, we're going to do a Warcraft movie series and it's going to be that kind of animation from like our cinematic movies and trailers, I'd have been like, sweet, let's do that.
Oh yeah.
I'll watch that. And then, but yeah, I didn't think that they melded live action and CGI very well. If they'd have been able to maintain the quality of motion capture shit that initial shot of Durotan, if they'd have been able to maintain that level of it throughout the entire fucking film, maybe. But they didn't.
Yeah.
When it was zoomed out, or like there was a bunch of other special effects going on, and you could tell like they had to drop the budget in some areas. They're like, okay, take down Durotan's budget, up the lightning, like, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Which one makes you wonder why they have such a strenuous budget where they had to be making these sort of cuts here and there when, like, I would say Marvel, who probably didn't have that much money, as much money as Blizzard, I should say, as much after their like third movie. You know, like I never saw Thor's CGI start to look shitty, even in his worst movies. So it just kind of makes you wonder how much they cared about that movie at all.
That's the thing though. Like,
they set a budget, you know, like this is how much you can spend. This is how much we want to spend.
Like I said, look at the standard, which is Lord of the Rings, and you can tell, regardless of like what the executives were thinking about the movie, you could tell Peter Jackson had like a hardcore, serious vision for that film. I kind of feel like they treated the Warcraft movie as like a bit of a throwaway. They were just kind of like, there was someone behind it, or maybe it was a group of people who were just kind of like, yeah, we're going to do this, but in the end, it's just some childish video game fantasy adaptation, and fuck it. Like,
Yeah.
It could have been. I still stand by that. Like if it's done and well and taken seriously as it deserves, I think it could be pretty damn good.
I agree. And man, before anybody gets on a potential tangent because I said that they didn't explain the lore enough, like, yeah, okay, we could go all the way back to the fucking Zandalari Empire and the creation of the elves and the understanding of how the Eternity Well came about and how all the wells came about. I get it. There's a lot of lore, but they didn't have to explain very much to make this movie better. They didn't have to do that much. They could have done a very easy Lord of the Rings intro explaining that warlocks fucked Draenor in the butt. They did it, and everybody let them. Nobody can deny that. All the orcs let them do it.
Do you think
Most of the orcs would already have been green, by the way. They
Yeah.
didn't make the pact with the demons when they crossed the portal. It didn't turn them green. I hated that so much. Can I tell you how much I hated that?
A lot of them were green. I think it was meant to be like the Frost Wolves, like Durotan's clan just hadn't done it yet.
Durotan, yeah, they hadn't, but like the fucking, oh god, the war song, I think is what Hellscream was, were all green already. Well, why was he brown before he passed through the portal? They literally took a cup and drank green demon blood, which is why their skin turned green, not the portal. And I also don't think that's why Thrall turned green, but I don't remember why he turned green. So it's like that thing with Charlie saying that when I burn the trash and it turns into smoky smoke and then it goes up the sky and turns into stars. And Mac's like, that doesn't sound right, but I don't know enough about stars to debate him. That's how I feel right now. I'm like, I don't think that's how it happened, but I don't know enough.
The movie did it. What was Durotan's wife's name?
Draka.
Draka came through with him, concealing her pregnancy, and then the trip through the void or whatever triggered it, and she gave birth like right there as soon as they came through the portal, and like Thrall was stillborn, and then Gul'dan sucked the life from a deer and went.
I wonder if that's what really happened.
And that turned him green.
I forgot about that.
Maybe.
I forgot all about that.
I don't know. But
okay, that makes more sense. He used the fell to. It doesn't really.
Like, dude, I mean, what was our last video about? Like when movies can't explain shit, so they're just like magic, you know? Like
it's basically what they fucking did. Oh god damn it!
But that's World of Warcraft magic. Like it's just magic, you know? Like
at least it is a world of magic.
Yeah.
Primarily run by mages at that time, at least.
Yeah, and dude, I sit here and I say that like they showed too many locations just for the sake of showing the locations. But at the same time, I did find it cool to see. So I didn't give a shit about the mages citadel that Khadgar goes to for all of like 2 minutes.
Karzan?
Yeah, I didn't give a shit about that.
Why would you? You didn't play World of Warcraft at the very niche time that is Burning Crusade, which is the maybe one of 2 times that you'd have done Karzan. That was for nobody but the fans. Yeah. Like, it was for no one but the fans.
My favorite, if I had to pick one location out of all of them that were unnecessary, but they were in there, that I liked seeing Ironforge and the dwarves. And I like when he showed him that he'd invented the flintlock pistol and shit. That was cool.
But, yeah, that was all. They did Ironforge really well. But also, of the cities to render, I would say Ironforge is the easiest. It's 2 colors. It's orange and black.
Yeah.
And they did the center forge area, which is a stripe through the ground and then like pits of lava. Yeah. So if they fucked that up, then they suck. And they didn't. So
yeah. And he was, but once again, that's another one where like fucking the movie opens up and like Lothar is there. He's there for like 5 minutes and then he receives an urgent message to go back to Stormwind and we never see Ironforge again. Like, you know.
He flew on Griffin from Stormwind to Ironforge. Can we just talk about how fucking far that is? That's so far. Here's Ironforge, okay? This is about the whole size of the Eastern Kingdom, let's say that. Here's Ironforge. Okay? Here's like the area. And then down here is Stormwind. Yeah. He fucking flew. Woo.
Yep.
They have mages that can teleport people anywhere instantaneously. But no, he fucking took his Griffin
so they could
on
show
the joyride. Because exactly. So they could show a Griffin. That's dumb. They have like Citadel mages. They have like Stormwind mages. And you're telling me that Lothar can't walk up to one of them and be like, hey, I am the second most powerful person in the Empire. Can you please teleport me somewhere? And they'd be like, I don't know. I was going to make a sandwich and then I was going to go for a walk. And be like, of course I will. You're my boss. Like,
yeah. And guess what? All that money they spent on that fucking Griffin could have been pumped into the orcs CGI motion capture budget.
Dude.
Like, yeah.
Just use horses. The horses are fine. Nobody was waiting for the Griffin. There wasn't one person who was like, if there's not a fucking Griffin in this movie, I swear to God, I'm burning this theater down. Like, nobody felt that way. Because the orcs didn't, like, have wyverns, and the horde wasn't like, this is bullshit. They don't have our weird cheetah dragon scorpions. Like, nobody cared.
No one cared. To be honest, like, until you mentioned it, I completely forgot he had a Griffin. Like...
Exactly. Nobody gave a shit.
Like,
they're like, oh, this is vital to the movie's plot that we have a Griffin fly way too far in one scene wipe.
Yeah.
We're gonna screen wipe, but it's gonna be him flying like 1,000 miles. Can you imagine how bad his ass would hurt in full armor flying on a Griffin? And by the way, if you looked at the anatomy of a Griffin, where your legs go is where the wings are flapping. So your legs are getting fucking smacked every single time it beats its wings. So you're just ow, 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 ow. And then like 10 hours later, you're like, my legs don't really hurt anymore. And you get home and they're like mangled. You're like, oh, I broke every bone in my body because that was a dumb idea, trying to fly on a Griffin for 1,000 miles.
That was a bad time to take a sip of water. Oh, shit.
Oh, man. Okay, and he's wearing full armor. That poor fucking Griffin. He didn't need to armor his Griffin to fly. There's no wars going on. Why would he be doing that? So, but that poor Griffin weighs like what? How much would that weigh? A fucking faceplate that's the size of a shield? 50 pounds? And then he's in armor? I could go on about how dumb that was.
There were some... Okay, so we shit on it enough.
Yeah, I agree. We should talk about some good parts of it.
Positives from the movie. I liked seeing Ironforge, even though it wasn't really necessary. Yeah. I liked his Makara he had at the end with Black Hand, and he sliced him through the balls. Yeah, that was pretty badass. Yeah,
dude, that was nasty. Cut his hand off too.
Yeah, that was good.
I like that Gul'dan cheated. I like that they at least made Gul'dan a piece of shit.
That's who he is. That was the only movie where I felt like real drama and like real, like an emotional tug was being played up, was like that fight scene where he knew, he was like, this is going to go one of two ways. Either I'm going to beat him, either he's going to fight honorably and I'm going to fucking kill him with my bare hands, in which case problem solved, or he's going to cheat, kill me with sorcery, but then hopefully through my sacrifice, I will have kind of martyred myself, and the rest of the fucking horde will stop following him because he will have showed he has no honor.
And he gets Orgrim. He gets Orgrim to
stop, but yeah, the rest of them, a couple of them start shouting like, "You have no honor, Gul'dan."
Yeah.
And then he sucks the life out of a couple of them, and they're like, "Oh shit, all right." Like,
no one says anything else.
Yeah.
I gotta say though, in that scenario, it seems like you'd want to be the warlock, right? Like, hey, we'll fight you. He's like, okay, you want to fight me? Okay, now there's only two of you. And you'd be like, oh, okay, never mind. Sorry, we didn't mean it. Like, my bad. And I think it only really worked on them because they had already drank the demon blood. Yeah. So he owned them basically.
Yeah.
Which is why he couldn't just like draw all the life out of Duratan in a second. He didn't have any pact. He wasn't part of it.
So
I liked that. I liked that they kept that separate.
I've already said that I liked the props. I liked the armor. I get it. You said like the bigger shoulders, but for real live action humans, they couldn't be that big.
No, I was kidding. Because I was making the joke because all World of Warcraft shoulders are ridiculous. Like a shoulder plate is like a thing that like drapes over your shoulder.
It's like you have a second head that's bigger than your normal head, or two.
Are we Space Marines? Do we have like literal like pauldrons meant to stop bolter rounds? Like, why are they that big?
Yeah. But other than that,
they look cool.
When the second time I went to Comic-Con after, I think it was like in like 2016, the movie had just released or was about to release, and they had the props there on display, and like I held some of the swords and shit. They were made really well and they looked really well. They really sculpted well and painted well and detailed well. None of them were made out of a single bit of metal. They were all like
a foam rubber stuff,
like a resin, like hard resin. They were just painted to look like real metal.
That
and
armor.
Shit.
I watched an episode of not Mythbusters, but oh man, his name. I can't think of his name. It'll come to me in a minute. But he has this channel. The main guy has this YouTube channel, and he was mailed during that period of the movie coming out a whole like set of the Alliance armor because
Yeah.
he's like a big cosplayer. He
Yeah.
goes to conventions and like he wears like full masks and stuff so nobody knows that it's him. And then like if someone guesses that it's him, he'll take the mask off. But he tries to wear full mask, so they gave him one of the Stormwind night armor sets with the full helm and like everything, and it looked really cool. And he like, you should watch it actually. But he explains like the materials and stuff, and I don't remember what they were, but he was like, wow, this is surprisingly light. You'd think it would be much bulkier, but it's not.
Which is weird because like I've owned a couple like movie replica swords from movies. Like I had Peter's sword from Narnia, and that was like I
remember that sword.
That was supposed to be like they always said that this is an authentic screen use replica of like this is identical in construction and manufacture to the one that was used in the movie. That shit was real metal. Yeah. Fucking tempered carbon steel, full tang. Like that shit was that was up there. The blade was a little thin and flimsy, but
it didn't bend was the thing. It would flex.
It would flex. It would flex.
But it would come back.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you look up how swords were made in the medieval time, they all did that. They were designed to do that.
You're telling me shit I already know. Like, okay. Yeah, I'm the sword guy, dude. Like, yeah. I've got plenty. And like, but here's the thing: other than the Peter replica one, the Narnia replica, all of the more authentic swords I've bought in my collection, I don't have that many anymore. They've all gotten like I've sold them off and shit. But the ones that I had bought, none of them, they all had flex because it was necessary. None of them had that much flex. Like
no, that obviously that one was way. They're supposed to maybe bend it like a little, but like we could like bend that thing like in half, like. And
it would go back. Yeah, like
no fucking way. That thing would break your arm when you hit it.
If I think there were a couple times we were younger and we were like in my backyard fucking around, and I would swing that shit and it wouldn't even swing straight because with the torquing motion of my arm, the blade would like flap downward. Yeah, but anyway, it's neither here or there.
Probably an intentional design so that they didn't actually swing hard enough to hurt whoever they're swinging at.
Yeah,
like maybe. You can't because it's like a sailboat. It's gonna catch the wind as you go. Like, okay, and like I liked the way that they did Medivh becoming a fell demon. I don't
visually remember, or like story wise.
The visuals. I just don't remember him actually becoming a demon in the lore. I think he was. It to me, and okay, people could have interpreted it differently, but when I read it, it seemed like he was possessed by the fell because he had delved too far trying to prevent it and had been overcome by it, and he was keeping his own vision, like his own body, because he was still himself. And then when the fell overtook him, he didn't like mutate into like a demon. He was just still Medivh, but he was like using fell magic instead because his arcane well had turned into fell energy, and that was lore accurate. He had a well of fell energy because that's what he did. He fucked up, and I thought that was really cool. I thought that was cool.
I liked it. You talk about like the full-on transformation when he grows the horns and everything.
Yeah, because I don't remember that in the lore, and I was like, this is a cool, unexpected thing.
Yeah.
He's like turning into a demon.
Prior to that, though, it was another example of live action not meshing well with computer generated effects. He had the fucking tendrily shit growing on his chin and whatnot that was clearly like prosthetics. But then his eyes glowed with this green glow that couldn't be described as nothing more than like computer and like generated green. Like, would it have been so hard to just put like green contacts, like some neon green? Yeah, but no, they had to be like, nah, we're gonna mouse click and drag these glowing green dots over his eyes like this is a fucking paint document, and we're gonna call it done.
I did think that looked pretty bad, especially like if you're gonna go that far with it. You should go to the full fell eyes, which are no pupils, burning, like they burn like
fire
out of your head
backwards. Yeah,
because that's what it literally is. It's like in Warhammer 40K, they say you gaze into the warp and the warp drives you insane. Well, let's think about it like that, but instead of gazing into the warp, when you gaze into the Fel, it burns you from the inside out. It burns your soul away. The more you accept it and allow it, it literally burns you, like takes your soul from you. And so it leaves this hollow in you, and you get these like green eyes that your eyes are basically gone. Like they aren't there. Demon hunters ritualistically cut their own eyes out with Fel flame daggers so that they can see creatures of the Fel without having to give their souls away, basically.
I'm trying to look up pictures of him corrupted. Yeah, here's one I just found. Yeah, there's no flaming effect. When he goes full on, like with the horns and shit, no, even then there's no like flaming effect. It's just green eyes, but it looks better because he's got spikes all around his shoulders and he's got horns and shit. Like, yeah, it looked a lot better. Yeah. All right.
It was like, yeah, it was a cool scene. It was so cool. It's just, it was just some little like Sci-Fi Channel weird option. So they did like, you know what I mean? Sci-Fi Channel
I know
movies.
what you mean. But prior, like old Sci-Fi Channel, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man.
That's
well, this doesn't need to be a long video. It's just one topic. So, closing thoughts on the rumors of a new it seems pretty substantial at this point. There's I've seen at least once a week I see something where a new website is talking about the WarCraft movie. This could all be people just copycatting off of an initial fake report, but I don't know.
It could be. But usually that goes away after a couple days. Someone
taking this and assuming it's real. Thoughts?
Assuming it's real, I'm excited. I like movies like this. You know, it's fun to shit on movies. Everybody loves shitting on movies. We just do it a little more openly than some people. But you know, like everybody thinks these things. Doesn't mean we don't like the movies.
Yeah.
And I would watch WarCraft right now with all the flaws I pointed out and still have a good time. And I would still cheer when some crazy shit happens. And then I would still be kind of bummed out by how dumb the ending is. But if they do a new one, they can't possibly fuck up worse, you know? Like they can't. Unless they really tried. They couldn't possibly do a worse movie. So they would only have they only have this upward. Can only go upward. That's what I meant to say. And they need to pick a more interesting plot this time.
Yes.
But that's it really. Not that the first one wasn't interesting. It's just that WarCraft has a lot more lore, and refer to my Deagle Smeagol comment. That's basically the tidbit of lore they chose from the wealth of lore that they had.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything. My closing thoughts are, if they're gonna do it, I don't think they should start all the way over. I think they should just keep going. Like that movie's done. It's out of the way. Let's just move forward. I think they need to choose between full CGI motion capture or live action. At the very least, on the spectrum, they need to weight it heavily one way or the other. I get it. Some stuff's going to have to be CGI rendered. Like if they went full live action, some stuff's going to have to be CGI rendered. But it's kind of like they're trying to straddle the middle line. It's kind of like, you know, lean one way or the other more on the spectrum between live action and CGI. The props and the costumes, for the most part, were damn good in the movie. The acting was good. They got a pretty good cast. Make the accents consistent, for the love of God. And then also, like you said, let's pick a much more engaging and entertaining part of all the lore. Like, start it at WarCraft 3. Like, who cares? Just do it. Like, do a nice, good Lord of the Rings prologue. Start it in WarCraft 3. Let us know where people are at. And you could almost, if you did it like that, you could do it almost as like it's like a spiritual sequel to the first movie. It's kind of like it's a start to a new thing, but if you want to think of it as a sequel, you can, because it takes place after.
Because the first one is technically like the first war, the invasion of the orcs, anything. A bunch of stuff happens after that. So. And
then what was the other thing I was gonna say? Fuck, I hate brain farts. We covered accents. We covered CGI versus live action, picking a better area. Oh, okay. And then I hope they focus on telling a good narrative and less on fan service.
Yes.
Make the priority the narrative, and like fuck off with the fan service. The fan service is the movie in and of itself. We're getting a WarCraft movie. Like, you know, that
the fans don't even like the fan service because we don't like. It's not what we're there for. We want to bring our friends to see the lore and give them a real example of how cool it is.
Yeah.
And when you give us a movie like that first one, they can see some of the reasons that it's cool, but their overall opinion of it is going to be pretty low because it's just such a boring starting point.
Yeah. I think it goes hand in hand with the narrative versus the fan service is like, just like take it seriously, you know, just because it's a video game adaptation, a sword and sorcery video game adaptation movie, like Lord of the Rings is the standard, and that broke that barrier. They did a high fantasy sword and sorcery movie and it won best fucking picture. All three of them were nominated for best picture. So it can be done. It can be done seriously. It can be, just because it's like fantasy sword and sorcery doesn't mean it can't be like real high quality cinema. It still can be. You just got to do it right. Narrative over fan service, consistency with accents, and pick CGI or live action and weight it more heavily towards one.
Yeah, and a heavy emphasis on that linear accent thing.
Yeah,
it's like,
yes, please.
At the end of the day, they are actors, and that's part of acting is.
Yeah, you're not asking
the right
for
accent.
a lot. You know what I mean?
No, we're asking you to. We're like, it's like asking the mechanic when you say, "Can you change your oil?" And he's like, "Sure," and he just like takes the bolt off, and he's like, "Well, I'm done." And you're like, "No, you got to do the rest of it. You got to do the job part, the part where you take the oil out." And he's like, "No, I did my part. That's it. I did it. $50, please." And you're like, "You didn't do the thing, though." That's how it feels.
Yeah.
It's like I get having an accent, but that's fine. You know, but just then like give it a reason, or give everybody else one. I don't know. There are a lot of Norwegian people.
And don't go full American accent, because that'll just be weird.
Please don't. Yeah. Just if you're gonna go one or the other, go full Norwegian accents. I like Ragnar; he's cool as hell. There are a ton of Norwegian people in the world. I know for a fact that there's a whole country of them, and I bet they have actors. You can find out.
Yeah, it's true. Or just get the entire cast of Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, and Doctor Who to come back. I mean, like, when you need a solid cast of British accented people, it's those people every time.
That's true. Oh man, I could think of a role for Peter Capaldi right here.
Yeah. Yo, you know he's in the new Suicide Squad movie?
Peter Capaldi is?
Yeah.
Wait, is it the Birds of Prey one, or is it another Suicide Squad?
It's James Gunn, did Guardians of the Galaxy, is going to kind of reboot the Suicide Squad. Like, it's kind of a reboot, kind of not. Like, Harley Quinn is still played by Margot Robbie because that's just her role.
That's because it's like you see a person like her, okay, and I've never, like, see, this is a problem. I've never like watched an interview with Margot Robbie, and I do like watching interviews with celebrities, so I'll do that. But she's such a strikingly beautiful woman that she could have played any one of those. She could have been Deadshot, and they'd be like, yeah, but she's making her role back as Deadshot in this new. Like, they would have kept her for anything. And as bystander B, we're bringing Margot Robbie back. Like, of course they would. So it's like I don't know.
Hey, watch her interview. There was a night where Chris Pratt guest hosted the Late Show or whatever instead of Jimmy. It was either Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon. He guest hosted because they were gone.
I think it's Jimmy Kimmel because Brie Larson did that too. Okay.
It's pretty funny. His interview he asked her if she's more of a beer or wine, and she says beer. And he goes, "I want a beer. Somebody bring me some beer." And she's just like, "I don't know if that's how this show works." And he looks right at the camera and he goes, "It does tonight." And wait, who's got Guillermo? Who's Guillermo's? It's Jimmy Kimmel, right? Jimmy Kimmel has Guillermo.
Yeah, Jimmy has Jimmy has
so because Guillermo goes and gets them beers.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
then they're just on the interview drinking beer. Yeah, it's a good interview. Yeah.
Okay, I'll watch that one through. I like Margot Robbie, but I'm just saying nobody can dispute that. It's like Harley Quinn. Yeah, damn. First of all, yeah, fucking hell. But Harley Quinn is not like a complex character. You know what I mean? In the entire existence of Harley Quinn, there has been exactly zero character development. She still carries around a hammer that says "BAM" on it, and she still shoots you with beanbag guns, and she'll still like piss on your corpse. Like, that's who she is.
Yeah, they've tried.
She has to be attractive.
The whole like she's fucking. Well, then that's another thing, man. We're getting a little off topic, but she wasn't always like this sex symbol. She wore this like jester outfit that wasn't revealing at all.
Let's be clear here. She wore a skin tight unitard outfit
with her face painted
with
white and
with her
black
face. Well,
eyes
they
and
all had their face
and
painted.
like the
And you're right.
beanie fucking ear
You're
things.
right.
Like it
Her
wasn't
head.
like yeah, it was skin tight, but like I never thought of it as like oh they're trying to go for like a sexual thing here. Like I
How
never
many
thought that.
clowns you know walk around in skin tight outfits? How many clowns you seen?
Female, I don't know, man. That's just what I'm trying to say. But you think you look at the transition from that into like now she's wearing like a bra and short shorts. It's like there's been a
I
bit of
do
a
agree with
change.
you.
There's
It's
been
a
a bit
little
of
weird. I
yeah,
would like to see because there was a reason. There's like a reason she dressed like that. She was insane.
yeah,
She I think Harley's dressing like a normal person in these movies, which is weird. But I also felt like all of them sort of dressed like normal guys. Like Deadshot was just dressed like a SOCOM character,
yeah,
and I was like, all right, he doesn't
yeah,
really. Why is he called Deadshot? Why isn't he just like called his name? Because he's like dressed like a person.
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't
Fire
know.
the demon dude, the El Diablo
Diablo,
guy,
yeah,
who had like the coolest power in the entire fucking squad, the
yeah.
coolest power in the squad, and he barely used that shit. I was so mad when he used that for the first time. Then he died. I was like,
Oh,
fuck
he ain't
this
dead, but
guy.
whatever.
Okay, cool, good, because
Yeah,
he's like the devil, and that was the
he's
coolest shit
like
ever.
yeah, the
He's
son of
like,
the devil
bruh.
or something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man, that was awesome.
But yeah, Peter Capaldi is in it. Like James Gunn's kind of doing a soft reboot of Suicide Squad, and it's got a huge the Suicide Squad. It's got a huge cast. Like it's like I think there's like 12 members on it, and like Peter
Okay.
Capaldi is one of them. He's yeah.
Yeah, who's he gonna play? I wonder.
So the dude that played Rick Flag is the same. Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is the same. The dude that played Boomerang is the same. And I think that's it. I don't think the
Jared
dude. I
Leto's
don't
got to be
will.
pretty salty that
Fuck that. I don't give a shit. Yeah.
I love that Harley's getting to keep going, and he's just like, I was the Joker. They're like, no, you fucking weren't. and he's like, no, I was for 3 scenes, and we're like, nobody remembers those scenes, and we're not gonna go look them up.
Unfortunately,
Anything that
some
you
of us
send
do
him,
remember, and it
we're
sucks.
lying to him. We're
Yeah.
all lying to his face. He's like, yeah, but you remember when I mailed that dead rat to that girl? And we're like, yeah, we all remember when you did that.
Yeah.
Remember when I sent that used condom? We're like, yeah, we remember that. That was gross. You're
Yeah.
gross.
Fuck you. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck you asshole.
Yeah. No, yeah, but all right. So that about wraps that up. Warcraft. I hope we're doing another one, and I hope all the things we said come to fruition. But
I
we
do
shall
too.
see. All right, man. I gotta pee. So
All right,
I'll
bro.
talk to you later, dude.
All right, later, man.